Hi, everyone, and hopefully I'll be as brief as I can. So thanks for the opportunity to present on IEEE Future Networks and to discuss the INGR, which is essentially International Network Generations Roadmap. Okay, so a bit about IEEE Future Networks. It's actually sponsored by IEEE Future Directions, and there are a number of other initiatives that's also being sponsored. That includes blockchain, digital reality, and a whole host that's on the left-hand panel. One that you might also find of interest is the recent IEEE Public Safety Technology Initiative that was recently launched at the beginning of the year. So there are a number of initiatives in progress, and at some point, say about 3 years or so, they eventually graduate into a separate community. And on the right-hand side, you will see some of our recent graduates that we had within the past year, and they include the IEEE Smart Cities, Big Data, Brain, Rebooting, Computing, and a host of other types of initiatives that you see on the right-hand side. So that's really IEEE Future Directions, and IEEE Future Networks Initiative is one part of Future Directions, and this initiative actually is involved in a number of different areas. So we collaborate with a number of IEEE entities that include ComSoc, IEEE SA, Photonics, VTS, and other IEEE societies. There are a number of content that is being generated that includes podcasts, videos, and webinars. Actually, we also have a monthly series that we host. And of course, there's a number of events that used to be the 5G World Forum that is now the IEEE Future Networks World Forum. The next one will be in October in Montreal. And there's a number of other types of research and education material that you will always find that we have available. So we are actually not only looking with internally, but externally as well, and we collaborate by way of standards development, as well as with different types of technical initiatives or industry connection initiatives, and then other types of activities. So the recent edition, the 2022 edition of the IEEE INGR roadmap are available for download, and there's a link there. Essentially what you will find is that it's really intended to engage industry, academia, and government. And really what we're looking at is issues or challenges and opportunities down the road. We look at it through a 10-year projection at the touch point of 3 and 5 years, and of course 10 years. And the first edition was issued in 2020, followed by the 21 edition and the 22 edition. We are currently working on the 23 edition, where we want to extend the range and depth of the previous edition. So this is going to be more proactive in the way we're looking at the 2023 and our road towards 5G and 6G. So there are 14 working groups that are available for download, and you will see that there are a number of different topics that is being covered. And I would like to take the opportunity to discuss some of them in more detail, although there is a lot of content there, and there's no way I would be able to do that within the short time. But I will make an attempt anyway, so that you will have a flavor of what to expect should you go to that website to download the copy. So the working groups you can classify them in basically 4 different areas. So if you think about it from a network point of view, there's the access capability, how users are able to reach the network. And we'll discuss each one of these working groups shortly. There's the network components and performance aspects, where we're looking about how networks are interconnected. We're also looking at a broader view too, as we look at the overall system and standards point of view. And of course, we're looking at the services and enablers, how to reach the different types of segments we have, the different functionalities we can offer, and of course, offer certain enablers and security along the way. So let's get started. So the first category essentially is about access. There are 3 working groups that are essentially focused on this topic at this point. They include connecting the unconnected, and as the name implies, it's about reaching segments of the global population that are underserved. So what they're really more focused about here is looking at the visibility and the development and standardization for collaboration for different groups. So then those different groups could be industry, it could be government, and of course academia. And they're looking at different ways to be able to do so. They've held challenges before, and there's a new challenge that's actually that's in progress right now, and I believe the closest in July. So that's the connecting the unconnected. Deployment working group is looking more about from a cellular point of view, if you will, that's looking at primarily from a macro cell deployment as well as a small cell deployment. So they're looking at engaging the local municipality, the local governments, basically, as they're interested in protecting public property, and they're looking at enforcing regulatory rules and local laws. They're also interested in making sure that they engage the industry, because as you know, cellular services that you rely on today, we need to have a local infrastructure. So what they're trying to do is really to address the needs also for service providers so that they can be able to deploy with the communication facilities. So trying to bridge the gap between the regulatory end and also from the industry end. Satellite, on the other hand, is looking at it from a global point of view and trying to reach new markets, new areas, especially those in remote and rural areas. So they're looking at basically integrating 5G and satellite technologies, and that's going to be based across a number of different types of platforms. So they include different types of, different heights, basically. So different, whether it's aerial networks or satellite networks, that's really their main focus. So low altitude platform is also of interest to them. So that's essentially the Axis group. So we have actually 5 work chapters that are actually working towards different areas of the network. 3 of them are shown here. They include Massive MIMO, which essentially is about supporting a large number of users. We had a speaker that actually focused exclusively on MIMO previously. So today we actually we have the Massive MIMO that's looking at different areas to be able to expand on this, and actually is progressing towards applying for a PAR, for a standard development. There's also the millimeter wave and signal processing group that is also looking at expanding the utilization of higher spectrum. So that includes millimeter wave, and of course they're going to be, with no doubt, they're going to be looking at the terahertz as well. So they're basically looking at ways to engage those particular stakeholders that are looking to utilize the higher frequency. Optics is really looking about supplementing the current wireless infrastructure we have, and also looking at other areas that are specific to optics. And they include optical communication networks, such as those that you might find in large data centers, to basically making sure that we have the different types of backhauls, mid-hauls, front hauls that we may need as well. So it's a fairly large scope. As we go towards the other end of the network, we can see basically edge services, and automation working group, as well as the systems optimization working group. Edge services is really looking at different use cases and expanding by way of some frameworks that they're working on and developing. And they include edge service platform and the edge automation platform as a framework. Systems optimization is taking a look at all of this and all of the different end-to-end components and saying, how can we make the entire areas to work better, and how can we optimize it? To that end, they're looking to form a scientific community to meet those needs. And of course, they want to be able to address some of the key problems that we have along the way, because we tend to optimize one area of a network, but not necessarily the end-to-end view. And that's really what they're trying to focus on. So I realize I'm going through a lot of these. There's a lot of details in the working group. I can only elaborate very little on these particular topics. As we go now even broader view towards systems and standards, we're looking at energy efficiency working group. Their view is basically, let's take a look at the entire communication network by way of power and efficiency. They're trying to minimize the power consumption and of course the associated carbon footprint for that. They've developed a number of different KPIs. They're looking at this from the 5G power value chain. And there's a lot more details, obviously, in the working group chapter, but basically, they're trying to give you figures of merit so that you can be able to categorize different areas of the network. For the testbed working group, they're essentially looking at basically federalizing, creating a federation of different types of networks, if you will, where you can look at different capabilities of networks across the way and being able to utilize them and be able to have availability to those particular networks. So they may engage in specific areas or maybe have collaboration with other test beds across the globe. The INGR standardization building blocks is now looking at this from a different context, and that's specifically towards standardization. So they're looking inwardly towards these working groups, and MIMO is one of the areas. Application and services is another area that has been accelerated to be able to have rapid results for different types of standards engagement. And as you can imagine, with 5G and then now with 6G, everybody's looking at, we are going to be looking at different types of standardization, different types of SDOs, or standard development organizations, as well as different industry groups, so that we need a way to be able to engage these different groups. And that's primarily the work of the standardization building blocks. So the last category is essentially the working groups for enablers and users, and that includes applications and services. That's primarily looking at a transdisciplinary framework, realizing that application and services should be contextualized, and it should be able to be applicable across ecosystems, networks, and governance. We are also looking at AI/ML, or artificial intelligence and machine learning, where we're looking at different types of framework to be able to advance the use of a lot of the different network components we have and different use cases. Security working groups is looking at this also from a different angle and looking at different types of security pillars and being able to categorize the different solutions that we have. So this is really a very quick overview. If you wanted additional information, please feel free to reach out to the contact information there that you see on the screen. And of course, you can download a copy of the INGR that's available online now. And if you would like to be a part of it and participate, please feel free to reach out, and the link is also available. Thank you very much for your time.